Hello, a very warm welcome to all my dear class 8 students. We have taken a long gap and today we are continuing with our English class once again with me, Miss Viveko Nyovele from Mount Sinai Higher Secondary School. Today we are going to start with the first chapter of our grammar book, okay? In the previous classes, we have been dealing with prose and poetry, that is literature, and now we are going to start with grammar. And before starting grammar, I want to let all of you realize that grammar is a very important part of our subject, okay? I do not deny that the literature portions are important, but unless you have a good knowledge of grammar, it is also very difficult for a student or for a person to frame correct sentences. And we are just going to start with the most basic thing that is in grammar. So I want all of you to pay your attention here. Okay, we are starting with the phrase and the clause. Okay, the phrase and the clause. Here, the phrase and the clause, that is chapter 1 of our grammar book, and you will find that in page number 5. Okay, I repeat, page number 5, the phrase and the clause. But in order to know what is a phrase, you also need to know what a sentence is. Okay, a sentence is a group of words that makes complete sense. That is what you have been learning from your lower classes, and unless you have that knowledge, it is very difficult to teach you what is a phrase and what is a clause, okay? In a sentence, you will find a subject, right? You will find a subject and a predicate. What is a subject here? I'll explain it to you in a very simple way. A subject is the object or the item that we are talking about, okay? That is called the subject. If I say, the rose is a beautiful flower, okay? What are we talking about here? Are we talking about beauty? No. The main thing that we are discussing about here is the rose, okay? The rose here is the subject, is a beautiful flower, that is the predicate, okay? And so that is what makes a sentence. And if a sentence or if a group of words does not make complete sense on its own, that means it cannot be called as a sentence, okay? So are you clear with sentence? I'm sure you are clear by now because from your lower classes, you have been studying this repeatedly, but sometimes with time that is passing, we also tend to forget the lessons that we have already learned. And so that is why I just gave a quick recap of what you already learned in your lower classes. And in a sentence, there will be a subject, a predicate, and a finite verb. Let me also explain to you what a finite verb is, okay? We know when I ask you what is a verb, I know you all will tell me that verbs are action words, right? All words that denote an action, every word that denotes an action is called a verb, but there are also some helping verbs. We call it the modal verbs or the auxiliary verbs, okay, because they help them. And here, if we look at this sentence once again, the rose is a beautiful flower, the word is becomes the finite verb. And finite verbs are those verbs which changes with a change of tense. I'm sure you are getting this, right? A finite verb is a verb that changes with a change of time or tense, okay? The rose is a beautiful flower. If I ask you what kind of tense it is, I know you will all tell me that it's a present tense. Why? Because the word is a present tense verb, right? If you are to change into past tense, what will you say? The rose was a beautiful flower. That means it was beautiful earlier but no more in the present day. Okay? What I mean to say here is this word can change with the change of tense, and that is why it is called as a finite verb. Please keep that in your mind because by class 9 you will have to study about these finite verbs a lot, and unless you know this, it will be very difficult for you to deal with tenses too. In our following classes, we will also discuss about tense, okay? And in order to do tense, you have to know verb very well. And when I say verb, it means especially the finite verbs, okay? The finite and non-finite verbs, okay? Non-finite verbs do not change with the change of tense, which we will discuss later. I'm not going to deal so much with finite verbs. and non-finite verb if you have the general concept, okay? If you get to know the basic idea of what a finite verb, that is going to help you, okay? For one last time, I'm going to tell you, a sentence will have a subject, the rose. A finite verb is a beautiful flower. That means the predicate, okay? It is also called a phrase, okay? And so finite verbs are the verbs that changes with the change of time. Remember, finite verbs are the verbs that changes with the change of tense. I'm also going to give you another example to let you know what is a finite verb and what is non-finite. I go to school to study, okay? I go to school to study. That is a present tense in itself. If I ask you to change that into past tense, you will have to change it in this way. I went to school to study. That means you went to school earlier, okay, to study. The sentence shows that it's past tense. What do we do here? Go. The word go is a verb. Study is also a verb, okay? But we did not change the word study. Why? Because it is a non-finite verb, okay? We change only the finite verb, or we can change only the finite verb, because if you change the non-finite verb, your sentences will go wrong. That's why we do not change. All verbs with to, okay, to plus verb or verb plus ing are non-finite verbs. Keep that in your mind. We are not going to study that in detail, but keep this in your mind so that we can use it in our later classes, okay? And so the rose is a beautiful flower is a sentence. Now we are going to learn about a phrase, okay? Unless you know what is a sentence, I cannot teach you what a phrase is, okay? A phrase is a group of words. I repeat, a phrase is a group of words that cannot make sense on its own, okay? Here, let's assume that we have only till this, okay? The rose is a beautiful flower. A beautiful flower. If I underline this, okay, a beautiful flower, it is a group of words, but it does not make much sense on its own, right? And so those are called as phrases. Unless you put the rose is a beautiful flower, it will not make sense on its own. That's why we call this group of words, okay, which depends on some other words to make sense, are called as phrases. We did not even take the finite verb, that is the word is, right? Because in a phrase you will not find a subject, or even if you find the subject, you will not find the predicate. It is just a group of words, and it has to, by any means, it has to depend on another group of words to make a complete sense. That is called a phrase. It is just a group of words gathered together. One more example that I'm going to give you is, the sun rises in the east. The sun is the subject, rises is the finite verb, right? In the east is the clause, is the phrase here, okay? In the east will be the phrase. So what you need to know is, in the east alone. If I come to your classroom and say in the east, so many of you or all of you will not understand what I'm trying to say. And a person suddenly comes into your room and say a beautiful flower. So you will not understand what they are trying to tell you, just because they did not make the complete sentence to you. They did not present their complete sentence to you. And you obviously know that there are some more words that needs to be added to your sentence if you want it to make a complete sense. And you will also be waiting, right? You will also be waiting for the remaining part of the sentence, because in the east or a beautiful flower alone cannot make sense on its own, and those kind of words are called as phrases, okay? And if you are clear with phrases, then only I can go to clauses, okay? Clauses. Here, phrase is a weak, you can imagine that phrase is a weaker group of sentence, and a clause would be a stronger one, okay? A clause is a group of words, okay, which has a subject, which has a predicate, a finite verb, but it still needs to depend on another sentence to make complete sense. If I say, which has a sweet fragrance. Fragrance, you know, fragrance is the smell, right? If I come to your classroom and just say which has a fragrance, you are surely going to be waiting for me to complete my sentence, because we know that that alone does not make sense, right? And clauses are usually group of words which starts with coordinate conjunctions, like which here. Which has a sweet fragrance. Here, which is the subject, has is the finite verb, a sweet fragrance is the phrase here. I want you to know which is the subject, has is the finite verb, okay? That is the important element for a sentence. A sweet fragrance is the phrase here. And if we are going to consider it this way, some of you may think that it's a complete sentence, because I said that a sentence will always have a subject, a predicate, and also a finite verb. And this part of the sentence has everything that I said is needed for a sentence. But why is it not a complete sentence? That is because it started with a coordinate conjunctions. Okay, it started with a coordinate conjunction, and that is the reason why it is called as a clause. You can imagine that there are two parts of sentence, which one is lighter and one is a little heavier than the other one. So the lighter one would be the clause, the heavier one would be the sentence or the simple sentence. Okay, I want you to be very clear with this. Once again, I'm going to show you the example only from this sentence, because if I use a lot of examples to show you, your head will get muddled up, it will confuse you, which will not bear much results for you. That is the reason why I am repeatedly using one sentence again and again, okay? The rose is a beautiful flower. We have learned 3 topics just from this sentence, right? And that is, the rose is a beautiful flower is a sentence, and here the word is the finite verb. Why? Because it can change with the change of tense. We can even say the rose will be a beautiful flower, okay? We can even change the sentence in that way. That's why this is called as the finite verb, and finite verbs are the verbs that changes with the change of time, with the change of time or tense. I want you to keep that in your mind. And a beautiful flower here is just a group of words, but they are called as phrases, okay? They are called as phrase because they are a group of words, but they do not make themselves clear to us, okay? Which has a sweet fragrance is not complete unless you bring the word the rose is a beautiful flower, okay? That is the reason why we need to know the first thing that we need to know here is the sentence, though our chapter only says the phrase and the clause. Phrases and clauses can never be clear unless you know what is a sentence, okay? So the whole thing here together makes it a compound sentence, which I'm going to explain to you later. You will not know what a compound means for now, but I'm going to make it clear. I hope you all are clear with this. So always make sure that you don't get confused. And if at all you happen to be confused with this topic, please refer to your page number 5 and 6 again. And the explanations that I gave you now will always come back to you as you go reading along your textbook, okay? There are 1 or 2 sentences for exercise for you to be solved. So please make sure that you try solving that, okay? And let's recap before I wrap this thing off, okay? Phrases and clause. The phrase and the clause, we know that phrase is the weaker group of words. It does not make sense on its own. A clause is a little stronger than that. Though it depends on the first part of the sentence, right? It depends on the first part of the sentence to make complete sense, but it has a subject and a predicate, right? It has a subject and predicate and also a finite verb. And that is why we call that as the stronger one as compared to phrases, okay? I'm going to give you one more sentence to let you understand, okay? If I say the boy rushed into the room, okay? The boy rushed into the room. Into the room will be the phrase there. The boy is the subject, right? The boy is the subject, rushed is the finite verb. Please do not forget the word finite verb, okay? Because if you forget that, it's going to be very difficult for us to go along the whole book, because all our grammar, the whole book deals with this. It will always come back to this topic, and that was the reason why they have put this chapter in the first place, okay? And the next thing that we will be doing is the second chapter. You will get to know the types of sentences, the simple sentence, the compound sentence, and also the complex sentence, okay? I'm not going to rub this thing off because we can use this same sentence again even for the second chapter, okay? In order to save our time, I'm not going to rub the board off. You can just turn your page to page number 7, okay? Page number 7, you will find chapter 2, simple, compound, and complex sentences, okay? Are you clear with that? A simple sentence will have only one subject and one predicate. I repeat, a simple sentence will have only one subject and one predicate. So you can take the example of the first part of our sentence here. You can imagine that we don't have this on the board. So the rose is a beautiful flower. This is a simple sentence because we are talking only about the rose, right? We are talking about the rose and we have only one subject, we have only one finite verb, and we have only one phrase here. And that is why it is called as a simple sentence. As the name itself suggests, it is very simple in its own way. I want you to think of another simple sentence where you will find only one verb, okay? One verb, one subject, and one predicate, okay? You can think of the house is beautiful. What are we talking about in this sentence? The house, right? We are talking about the house and is beautiful. The word is becomes the finite verb. Yes, you're right. It's become the finite verb. Beautiful, we are talking about the house. Yes. So that is a simple sentence. If I say, the house which is built by my father is beautiful, that is not a simple sentence because the house is there which is built by my father. Those will be clause again, okay? Which is built by my father is beautiful. It's describing it, right? It is describing it. But in a compound sentence, I want you to know, in a compound sentence, there will be two clauses, okay? I'm repeating, there will be two clauses joined by a conjunction. You know what are conjunctions, right? We have 8 parts of speech and conjunction is one of them. Let me explain conjunction to you again, because if you listen to the explanation, if you are just listening to what I'm saying without knowing what a conjunction is, that would prove meaningless for all of us, okay? That's why I'm going to explain what a conjunction is. A conjunction is a group of words, it's a word, okay? It's a word that connects sentences or that connects words. For example, 2 and 2 makes 4. Very simple, right? 2 and 2 makes 4. The word and has connected the two words, 2 and 2, right? Or else we cannot just say 2, 2 makes 4. That would be awkward in our presentation. And that is the reason why we use the joining words. 2 and 2 makes 4. That is the conjunction. I went to school because I have to attend the exam. I went to school is one part of the sentence. I have to attend the exam or I have to attend the class. The word because is the joining word there, right? So that is a conjunction. I'm sure you have learned simple sentence very clear. I'm going to explain a little bit about compound sentence in your next class again. Please stay tuned for your next class too, because we did not finish this chapter, okay? There are 3 types of sentences in this chapter, but we could finish only one, though I've explained a little bit about compound sentences. Please go through your textbooks before we start our class again, so that it will be easier for you to understand the explanation that I'm going to deliver in the next class. Thank you so much.